Yo, what is going on, team? This is Art, and I'm going to be going over my BABA trade that I called out today. This is a breakout play that I took to the upside where I landed about $1,600 worth of profit. This is my screenshot here. I exited for about, I believe, 10% profit here. And overall, I'm just going to be going over the thought process and why I held this position the way I did and why I took it and how I feel going into the market going into tomorrow, March 12th, 2021. So let's get started. Really quickly, I'm going to be pulling up multiple different time frames for BABA. So here is a 5-minute chart for BABA. Here is an hourly in the middle, and I'm going to put a 4-hour chart in the, onto the right. So that said, let's get this thing going. So firstly, Alibaba had a pretty decent sell-off going into the morning, but it did end up falling below this 200 SMA line, which was a little iffy when it came to actually entering the trade, because that means that it was a little weak at the morning in the AM. So just something to consider. When I was looking at that, I was like, well, there's a chance that we could see this thing kind of fall back down, but we did have a V-shaped recovery above that. And the reason why I entered was actually when I looked at the hourly chart. Notice right here at this 239, 238 level, we have a breakout above the 200-day moving average for an hourly chart. This will always supersede this, in my opinion. And so I played on this as my entry, with 242.5 being my exit price. That was keeping in mind that the stock is now kind of pushing above a known resistance level. So with that in mind, that's why I took that as my entry price. And then when you actually go into a 4-hour chart, I looked at this, and it might be a little abstract, but it does kind of look like an inverse head shoulder. Here's your shoulder, head, shoulder, and then we started ripping to the upside. That one's kind of a stretch, but I really liked the setup above this 200-day moving average. And overall, I ended up watching it in terms of the 5-minute chart. So once I had actually entered, I watched as this bull flag started to form, because it did kind of pump up initially and fell back down. And so once it bull flagged and bounced on this 20 SMA, I was very comfortable holding it throughout the middle of today, despite the low volume. And I ended up selling as we started seeing resistance toward this 242 mark. So despite it not hitting my profit target, I did take profit because I did not like that we were seeing the MACD start to cross to the downside in terms of a 5-minute chart, and because of that, I wanted to exit and lock in profit. So that in mind, I did alert everything there. Overall, the position went pretty well. Again, there's a link in the description for that. But overall, the win was pretty nice, about $1,600. I did also take a trade on QQQ, and I took an L on that. It was about a $250 loss. I had entered with about $3,500. Oh, and side note, this BABA position, I entered with about $15,000. I play with anywhere from $3,500 to $15,000, depending on my confidence in the play. I entered QQQ with $3,500, mainly because I wanted to size in below a spot for confirmation, and well, it didn't end up doing what I wanted it to do. So I took a small $250 loss. I think came out to like 7%. And I made sure to mention that to everyone, that I was in very, very light. That said, though, I was playing off of this initial kind of crossover. I thought we would end up having a cross to the downside, and we did not. We were also very overbought. So I was under the impression that we would kind of have a small correction, maybe back down to 313 before heading back up higher. Also, I want to note that on this hourly chart, we do have a very nice doji candle right here forming. And with that in mind, I think we might see this market kind of turn around going into Friday. But just more of a recap on this QQQ trade that I took a small loss on. I was aiming for this initial play right here. So I played and I bought somewhere around this 316 mark, and I tried to run it down at 315. I bought in early. Again, keep in mind, my initial thought process was to enter at 315 or below. And so when it didn't end up doing that, it was 316.5 where I cut my loss, because that was me being wrong. And I think it's extremely important to know when to cut your losses, whether it be a price level, a simple moving average, having, say, the MACD cross against you, or seeing RSI go into bullish in comparison to bearish. That is just, various different indicators that you can use when it comes to taking a trade. Another thing is, I personally, if you're a beginner, I would personally use a hard stop loss. mental stop losses are good once you kind of understand what you're doing. But if you do not have a hard stop loss, you're going to end up letting your position ride, and that's where you could end up bleeding a lot of capital. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's something that I learned the hard way. So I hope that you can take that and use that, because it's a tip that not a lot of people talk about, but it's extremely important to know about, because if you don't know when to stop your loss, you end up having a position that would have been maybe a 5%, 8% loss turn into a 20, 25%, 30 for 30% loss, 40%. And so you do want to make sure you're mitigating your risk. And again, that's why I'm taking these contracts that are, again, like here for BABA, for example, I took 4-1 expiry. So this is 235C. So that was already in the money by default. So I bought in with $4 in the money. And on top of that, I bought for the 1st of April expiry. So I bought about 20 days worth of expiration time. That way I could protect my investment here and have a little bit more time for the play to come out in my favor. It ended up paying out very nicely and pretty quickly, so it worked out. But that in mind, if it didn't initially go in my favor, I would have been able to hold on to my position a little longer and not take as big of a loss. Lastly, I did want to go over an update on my GLD position. GLD was massively flat today as it fell below 200 SMA during pre-market. It did bounce up in the future session, but it didn't hold on to that level, because my initial plan was to sell right at open when it was at this 162 mark. Oh shoot, whoops, I just noticed that I still have my BABA screenshot. Okay, let me go over that again. I apologize. So above this 162 area was where I was planning to take profit on this gold play. And so notice it was extremely flat today, but I do have that, again, that April 1st expiry, and I'm in the money. So I didn't really bleed much. I'm up $0 on my position now. I took a $312 loss on it for the day, which put me back to break even. Overall, though, I am still kind of bullish on gold, and I do want to see this thing ride up higher. That in mind, though, I couldn't really exit to where I wanted to because of how it opened and the futures action not going in my favor. So I'm going to continue to swing that. I just wanted to update you guys on my gold position because a few people had asked me in my direct messages. And overall, I think the play still has potential here, but we do need to rip back above this 200-day moving average, or we'll just end up cutting for a small loss. That's, again, the glory of taking that longer expiry. I'm not down anything despite, the 1 day I don't have any theta being taken. So overall, not bad. I also want to go over a few more things. I am in QuantumScape shares. I bought these at about $52 on this 200-day moving average break. And I didn't buy options on it. I should have, now looking at it in hindsight. But we did break above this 4-hour 200-day moving average, and it's currently forming an inverse head and shoulders. I think we can see this thing retest like 65 going into the future. However, I don't want to put money on options because this thing does fluctuate a lot. Here it is being up 11% on the day. And I personally do not want to take a trade on something that is this volatile. Same thing goes for Riot Games. A lot of people have been talking about blockchain companies. Here's Riot. They're up 12% today. I had mentioned in my live stream this morning that I liked Riot Games above 60. So I was initially going to take it on this $60 break, and it ended up skyrocketing to about 62 and then dipped back down. But notice it did hold on to the 50-day moving average on this 5-minute chart. And after using that as a support, it kind of just rode on top of the 9 and the 20-day moving averages throughout the day. So there you can see right there. Overall, extremely strong. I think we could probably see Riot blockchain continue upwards. Overall, though, the positions came out nice. And then lastly, I did trade Costco. I had a few positions left over from a swing trade, and notice how we now have a reversal to the downside as we're rejecting the 200-day moving average. So going into tomorrow, I'm actually kind of bearish on Costco, but we'll see. That in mind, though, I did end up taking a nice profit, and so my PL year to date for Costco is now about $10,500, as I've now taken 2 trades on it with pretty hefty size positions. But Costco, even though it only moved about 1.5%, has very good premiums. And so that small movement landed me about, I believe, 25% profit for a $4 gap to the upside. Overall, I'm a very big fan of how Costco plays, and I'm going to definitely keep it on my watch list for that reason. Although, again, you should never be married to a stock. You shouldn't be looking for specific plays on certain ones. It's okay to have a certain watch list of things you like to look at regularly, but you should never just trade one stock, because sometimes, like for example, gold is flat and you can't really do much with this. Like if say I only traded gold, I'm stuck for this day. I lose money to theta or something. So overall, I mean, it's okay to have a nice watch list of things that you want to play. Otherwise, though, I would say just kind of flip through your watch list. I am going to be making a video later tonight about how I find things that I want to trade, because I've been receiving that question quite often. And so I'll be posting that probably tonight. And I will catch you guys then. That is going to conclude tonight's video, or I guess this evening's video. And I appreciate it. Feel free to drop a like, comment, subscribe, any suggestions. I'm always all ears. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and I'll catch you later. Peace.